welcome to HCR Garage. I'm Henry. So for those of you that don't know, I am putting a Jaguar 3.0L V6 engine into an MGB. An MGB which I have restored over the last several months, and it is solid and ready to go. What some people might not know is I've now bought a Mazda RX-8 gearbox, 6-speed manual, to go onto the 3.0L V6. And I've got an adapter plate from RX-8 Gearbox Adapters. They're a company and they do loads of different adapter plates for RX-8 boxes. So today I want to try and mount that gearbox to that engine and maybe do a trial fit into the car and just see where I'm going to have to cut, what the engine mounts might look like and stuff. So I'm going to rip straight into it and start lifting this engine over here so I've got loads of space to work on it, and try and get this new gearbox on. So here's the engine. It's looking a bit worse for wear, but has actually only got 40,000 miles on the clock, and I've got the full service history for it, including the registration plates from the S-Type Jaguar that it came from. So it should be all good. So I need to get this lump of a gearbox off and put this RX-8 gearbox on it. And I've got this adapter plate to do that, and a fixing kit there. So yeah, let's start by moving that to here. We'll try and unbolt that gearbox from that engine. God, that engine's a heavy lump, but so's the A series, I suppose. So the A series? I'm not working on a midget or a mini, am I? B series. In fact, it's only about, with the gearbox and the engine, it's only about 10 kilograms heavier than the B series engine and gearbox. So weight-wise, for the suspension and stuff, it's not too bad, is it? So the engine's next to each other. The engine and gearbox is next to the new gearbox. So I'm going to try and relieve this engine of its gearbox, and then put the RX-8 box on. And then I'm going to have to do some modifications for the starter motor, which I'll show you. But let's rip into that now. Right then, that gearbox is mounted to the engine. Not perfectly, as I say, this is only a trial. It will be coming back off again, but it's enough now to support the weight of the gearbox and for it to be in the right place for me to try and fit it in the car. There's just a few things I want to do first before I do that. Okay, Archie. So this engine mount here has got some sort of oil adapter on it. Again, I'm not really sure what these are yet, but I want to try and take that off. See if that goes to an actual oil way in there. If it does, I'll have to blank it or something for the time being. But I don't want this to be in the way whilst I try and drop it in, because I just know where the frame is on the MG, that if that makes contact with it, so will that, and there won't be any room for it. Just take that off, and take this one off on this side as well. I might be able to reuse them in some way. It looks like the previous owner of this engine had. So yeah, I want to take them off. I'm going to try and leave the exhaust manifolds on. I've got a few different ones to try, but I've got a feeling this one's going to catch, and I think that one might hit the, it might hit something. It might hit the steering column or something, but we'll see. I can always take them off if I need to. I just would quite like to keep them on just to see how much room I've got for them. I'm going to quickly whip these off, and then might try a trial fit in the car and just see how it goes. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. It's going to be very difficult on my own. I think I'm going to try and tilt the gearbox down as far as it'll go, almost run it along the ground, maybe even run it along that so it slides into the car. And I'll try and line this up with the hole in the transmission tunnel for the original 4-speed synchro box, because I want to try and get it so that that lines up. And if it all works out well, that'll line up with the transmission hole, and these will be about there to the bulkhead. But we'll see. I'm not 100% sure whether that'll happen. I've never done an engine change like this before, an engine swap. So I'm just kind of trial and error, really. We'll see how it goes. I think I've just got to keep trying to fit it in, take it out, fit it in, take it out, and until I finally get to a place where I'm happy where it sits. Somehow make engine mounts with rubbers in, somehow make a transmission mount. Once I've got it all sat in the car, I'll be happy. Then it's just get the prop shaft made, all that type of stuff. But I'm going to worry about that when it happens. No point worrying about it now. If I do, I think I'd just explode. So yeah, let's try and kind of maneuver it so that this is hovering over the engine bay, and we'll try and see what we can do. So those engine mounts are off. One of them was where the oil filter goes. It looks like an adapter mount almost. Strange design. I've also tied the bonnet of the car up to the rafters. Someone's comment on one of the last videos was to do that. Definitely a lot easier than having those pieces of wood that I kept on knocking about. So that's good. You can see that there. So that's vertically upwards, which is good. There's that mount I was on about. So now I need to put these straps back on. Kind of hover it over the car. You can see I've put the little trolley underneath it. I'm hoping to be able to put the gearbox on that and help it move it into the car a little bit, but we'll see. As I say, this is a complete trial. I've never done this before, so we'll see how it goes. Right, so first of all, I need to jack this up and see how it balances on this. Get the centre of gravity a bit more to the back of the gearbox. I don't know if you can see me right now. I'm just adjusting the handle of the sling adjuster. Get the gearbox a bit further up in the air. Okay, so now I've got to flip this engine hoist around so the gearbox is obviously into the car. I might need to take that gear stick off because I don't know how much room under the car I've got, to be honest. We'll find that out on the first go, I suppose. What can you see? Yeah, you can see. So I've got it lifted on these straps, like round either side of the sump, so it pinches together like that, so they're not going to slip anywhere. Well, that's the plan. You see how this one's a bit loose though? All the weight's on this one, so I might just pop it down and see if I can shorten this again. I want it to take some of the weight, you see, at that angle, so then I've got more angle to play with. These straps, by the way, are 1 ton each, so you've got plenty of strength to do this. It's taking more weight this time. This one's still got most of it, but that'll do. Well, that's as high as I can go. I have to move it inside the garage a bit to get the full height on this lift. Right. Needs to go up another foot, I'd say. I'll move you in a bit closer so you can see. So as I said before, this is the first fitment. It'll be much easier with another pair of hands, I'm going to be honest. I want to get it in as far as I can go and then start angling it a bit. I think I am going to have to take that gear knob off, aren't I? Do I do the lazy thing and take it off there? Or do I pull it back out again? I think we all know the answers to that. So the reason I wanted to keep this on is so I could easily see where it would be under the car with the transmission tunnel, but I suppose I've got the bit there to see it as well, so hopefully I can see that from inside. The closer it gets to the car, the more it looks like it's never going to fit, doesn't it? Great. Never see that again. Right, that's out. Can I find it? Is it here? Yeah. Always put bolts back in the hole that they came out of. I'm going to stuff something in there as well, just to try and prevent any, why can't I talk? Any grime going in there, basically. Let's try again. I've got going to start angling this a bit further down. I can afford to come down a little tiny bit. I'm going to lift it up a little bit. In a bit. Definitely couldn't have done this without this sling adjuster. There's a bit of a precarious angle now. Right, we've got it rested on the inside of the transmission tunnel there. So I can lower it down a little bit. Right, it's on my little trolley, which is good. Move it up just a little bit. It's hard there. Right, I've now run out of room to move forwards, which isn't great. What we can do is start lowering it, and hopefully that trolley takes it that way. Oh, well, there you go. It skipped past something. Okay, exhaust manifold at the moment looks like it's clearing. It's just hitting the brake switch. Steering column itself is clear. What I can do is lower it a little bit and just see how that looks. Right, it's cleared the switch, getting closer to the steering column now. So what I'm going to do is lift the back of the gearbox up with this, see if we can get it to fit a bit better. I don't think that exhaust manifold is going to work on this side anyway. What's it looking like on this side? That one's quite nice, it's fitting into the gap where the original one would go, so that's good. Just looking how far this has got to go in and down to clear the cross member. I've got the room at the back here, it's this manifold that's not got the room, so let's take that off somehow. They look a bit rusty, so I'm just going to get some WD, see if we can get that off. In fact, I can't get it off whilst it's in the car because this strap's on it, so it's going to have to come back out again, take that exhaust manifold off. Yeah, let's lift it back out again. This is going to be the theme of this episode. Ah, you cut on that. Right, okay, lift up then. There we go, you're free. Am I going to have any MG left by the end of this, do you think? No, I'm not. It's on the arm of the engine hoist. Okay. Let's take this manifold off then. I think it's only got one bolt holding it on. Which is good, isn't it? Now the compression's shut up, I can talk to you. So I'm going to put this other manifold on, see how that goes. I've also got these little stubby ones as well. So yeah, we'll see about that. Let me tighten that up. Note to self, order some manifold bolts because I've not got any. One for each side came on the engine, which is great. Okay. I'm conscious that you've not got a good angle to see this really, but you're up against the wall in the garage or the compressor, so there's no more room for you really. I would like to get you in a better angle, but never mind. This will have to do for you. So, got a different manifold, exhaust manifold on now. Should be slightly higher, I think. So it might clear the steering column now. If not, we'd have to rethink the manifold altogether. I wish it wouldn't bounce around so much. Makes me nervous. So this is take two. I wonder how many takes it'll get. Two. Will I lose count? Am I going to get better at this as it goes on, do you think? God, that lowers down so quick with the slightest movement. Bear in mind, I'm going to refurbish this engine bay as well, so any dents or anything that I do create, I should be able to sort out. There we go. Push it in a bit further. Lower it down a bit. Lift it up a bit. Push it in a bit. Lower it down a bit. Push it in a bit. Lift it up a bit. Right, you hear the gearbox hit the trolley underneath. That manifold is once again quite close to the steering rack. Steering knuckle on the steering column. We're on the steering column there. Might be able to move the engine towards you. Get it to clear that. I think once it's at its height, that manifold will actually work. It'll fit around the steering column. I'd say I'll remove the steering column instead. Because a lot of people would, when they're doing these engine changes, remove that steering column. Because obviously it is in the way. But it's a pain to get off. And my opinion is, well, I don't really want to modify it. So it's going to have to work somehow, isn't it? Right, let's take this manifold off altogether. I should have done that in the first place, really. Back out again. Get it to there. Oh, God. There we go. Turn this around. Trying to single-handedly put an engine into a car and film it is quite difficult, actually. There we go. Right, let's get this manifold completely off. I'm aware that you can't see that side of the car when I'm putting it in and out. Right. I'll take a minute and then start again. Right, take 3. I've still got to fit the starter motor and everything at some point, which goes on this side. I've got to cut a slot out the gearbox housing to do that. Okay. Now we can lower it down. Now we can tip this forwards. I'm going to have a lot of dents in this engine bay by the end of it. Right, that's as far as that'll go in. So now I can lower this down. Trying to keep it central. Get it past the original engine mount. Oh dear. Well, that nearly installed itself, didn't it? Right, okay. There's nothing going to make any contact on this side now. The exhaust manifold is on this side now, going to make contact with the bulkhead. I need to lift the back of the gearbox up. See how much room at the cross member we have. The whole engine needs to come this way a little bit. It's over to that side of the car too much. I need to put this engine hoist on this end one, don't I? It'll be right at the end of its weight limit, but if I'm going to get it in the whole way, that's the only thing I'm going to be able to do. Let me get you in here so you can see what's going on. So you can see at the moment, the alternator, which is on a smaller bracket, is still hitting this. Good amount of room on this side now without a manifold in, which is good. But you can see down there, we are currently resting on the crossmember my nice freshly painted one, which is now all dented. That's good. We've got quite a lot of room back there. Obviously with that manifold on, it's not going to get back there enough. So it might be a case of removing that manifold now, and then trying again, and then putting this on the furthest out point here so we can get this longer. But yeah, it looks all right, doesn't it? It's getting there. Definitely needs to go in further and down further, we know that. But it's a good start. Whew, it's warm today. Really nice sunny day. This is really awkward, as expected. So it's not annoying me. It's just a fact of life, isn't it? It's a faff because there's so many different things in this engine bay that can catch you out. But it's in quite a good position now. It's too angled down, as in gearbox end is too far down into the car. There's a couple of things that are stopping me progressing now, which are going to need some alterations. So I'll kind of talk through what I've done on the time lapses and let you know what my plan is now. First of all, I took the alternator out. It was here. Now you can get a kit to mount the alternator the other way around, so I might have to do that. That's the first issue. There is room here. Doesn't look too bad. The engine is twisted in the car at the moment. It's not quite level. And it's a bit to the left-hand side. But that's not the end of the world. The gearbox selector is currently there, so it's not too far away. Even if I needed to make a little thing there, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I think I can get it in further if I got rid of the other two things that are meaning that I can't progress without doing something. On the end of the gearbox for the RX-8 is this, what I'm assuming is part of the mount for it. Now you can see the MG crossmember there. Now that mount is just hitting it. So I'm going to use probably those two bolts there when I come to mount it, because I think that should be quite nice with a flat plate or the original crossmember along there. It lines up quite well. I should be able to adapt that quite nicely. I don't think I need this at all. So on my next job, one of my next jobs, when I pull it back out again, is to remove that from the gearbox. Now the other issue, you see the sump and the crossmember there. Now, it's quite good because this sump's got a recess at the front, but I think the crossmember still needs a little bit of massaging. It's quite close. I need to find a way of knowing how close that actually is. Because obviously once I get it in further, it might not be an issue anymore, but is it stopping it going down at the front? So I need to figure that out. So yeah, this is what I'm kind of doing, but so far so good. I mean, we've done it 4 times now and we've got it a lot closer. So yeah, let's take that off and I'll have a look at the front crossmember before I take it out and draw some lines, because if I need to grind a bit and weld something in, I will do. I know when you fit the MX-5 engines you need to massage that front crossmember, so yeah, we're going ahead nicely. I just filmed a whole talking bit on a time lapse. So as you saw from that time lapse, I pulled the engine out halfway and I removed that gearbox mount. So I put it back in, and that gearbox is fitting nicely above the MGB's crossmember now, so that's good. It's also fitting quite nicely in the engine bay. It's still tilted too far down, the gearbox down to the floor, if you like, and that's because I can't get it in far enough. Now, there's two things stopping me from going in further. So on a V6, obviously, 3 cylinders on the driver's side are further forward, and the 3 cylinders on the passenger side are further towards the seats, towards the inside of the car. And that's so that as the cylinders go up and down, they're all on the same bit of they're on different bits of the crankshaft, sorry. Because of that, the passenger side of the car, the bulkhead, is in the way. The driver's side should be fine and fit no problem, but the passenger side needs to be cut out a little bit, which I'll show you. You can see how these bank of 3 cylinders is further that way towards the car and the heater box and stuff. And this set of 3 cylinders, the actual cam cover is smaller, so it actually finishes at the same point at the front, but it is definitely more of a gap there. And because of that, I need to cut out here, down there in like a bit of a V. Not the end of the world. I should just be able to fill in with some weld on that bit and some plate metal. But then I should be able to get this to go that way 2 inches. And luckily enough, you can see I've got that hooked under the steering wheel there and there to keep it central. That needs about 2 inches to be right in the middle of the original MGB slot, which will be extremely good because then I can use the original gear, surround and all sorts and try and make it look as standard as possible, which will be really nice. I think I need to pull the engine out again and cut that out. And I can only know how much of the cross member to cut on the front once I've done that, because the engine will be that way a bit more and I might not have to cut as much. There's like a little, I don't know what that is, but there's a bit on the bottom of the engine here, on the bottom of the sump, that kind of sticks down into it. So we'll see how much of that I need to cut away. Now, cutting the cross member is a little bit more kind of intrusive because it's structural, so I'd have to gusset it or whatever to try and, if I cut away some of the strength, to add strength back in, essentially. Yeah, just taking it one step at a time. Obviously, I'm still going to have to make engine mounts, gearbox mounts and stuff, but now I'm happy that it will actually fit in. I just need to do a few modifications. So I'm going to take the engine out, cut where I've said on the bulkhead, cut the original engine mounts off because I don't need them anymore, just to give myself loads more room to swing this in and out a few more times. Lots more times. So yeah, I'll get on with that. Right then, the engine's back out again, which is nice. So I need to get all my fabrication gear back out again. I've not really done any welding and cutting and stuff for a little while. Not on the car anyway, I have for other people. But anyway, I need to get all the grinding discs and everything back out, cut it all off, and then use some thick gauge steel to weld the plate in. Obviously, to start off with, I'm just going to fit it in and see if it fits before I fill it all in and weld. I don't think I'm going to mess with the cross member, as I just said, yet, but I am going to cut the original engine mounts off. Half of me wanted to keep them in case someone wanted to put a B-series back in again, but it's metal, so it can be welded, can't it? So if anyone did want to put a B-series back in, not that I plan on selling it at all, but if someone did, or I did one day, I could just weld them back on again, I suppose, couldn't I? So yeah, grind them out, start cutting away things. Now that is a fuel line, so I probably want to get that out of the way. I have already drawn a complete straight edge on this. You probably can't pick it up on the camera, but it is there. I've scribed it in. I did check as well before I did this that there was nothing on the inside, wires or anything. I'll check what that screw head is there. Check it's not holding anything important in. It's just holding some carpet in, so I'm just going to quickly undo that. Oh, there we go. First bit of cutting done. I'll cut the engine mounts out next. Again, I can grind everything back later. This is all really rough, but it's just because I think, well, there's a good chance I'm going to have to cut out more than this anyway. So I'm just kind of, guesstimating at the moment. So yeah, cut out these engine mounts as best I can. Probably just straight upwards at the moment. I'm not going to bother about the top bits. Yeah, I got on with that now. God, it's the first day of spring today. Shouldn't complain that it's warm and hot. It's warm and hot. So yeah, that was warm work. But I've cut the bulkhead and I've roughly cut the engine mounts off. Quite difficult to get to with the grinder, with the steering rack and everything in the way. But they're off, hopefully enough just to get the engine in and hopefully into a nice position now. Depending on that front cross member. I'm expecting to have to take the whole engine back out again to cut that, but I don't want to cut it yet. Because the least I can cut that, the better. So yeah, time to get the engine back in again and see how far back I can get it in towards the car now. So. Well, we are making progress. It's fitting better every time I put it in the car, so it's good. I think it's still sitting a little bit towards the driver's side at the front, so I've decided I'm going to cut a little bit more from that bulkhead section. I don't think I need to do any more than that though. I might need to take a little bit from the driver's side. I'll show you. Just there, it's just catching now that I've got it a bit further in. I've got it wedged with a piece of wood against the steering rack because I think that's quite a nice place now. That, you can see that it wants to go a little bit further in, and where I've drawn that black line there, I think it just wants a bit more clearance and down inside there. So I'm going to cut it straight down this time. It'll be easier to fabricate a bit for that as well if it's straight down. But that's the really good bit. It needs to come probably, what, an inch further forward. So yeah, that's really, really, really good that I've managed to get that so central into the normal kind of driving position. So that's just pure luck, that. But that's now my target, to get that in the middle. And that should give me plenty of room everywhere else. It's just catching at the very front of the cross member now, on that same little bit there. Which I wish I knew what it was, to be honest, but never mind. But it's not far away from clearing that. So I'm not going to mess with the cross member yet. I'm going to focus on cutting the bulkhead out first, because if I can get it further in, I might not need to worry about that as much. I might just need to cut a hole for that little plug bit to fit in. Obviously, it's still tilted that way a little bit because it's hitting that cross member at the moment. I want to get it as close to flat as I can. But yeah, I just need to get the front down and probably back in another inch, and we should be good. If I can get that probably about a finger's width there away, and that'd be good. I've obviously got to watch out for the exhaust manifold, because I still need room from here to bring something down and down that gap there. But yeah, it's definitely starting to look better. I've got more confidence that it's actually going to fit now, and I'm going to be able to keep the heater box, which is nice. I didn't want to have to get rid of that. Yeah, I'm nearing the end of play today now. Going to go out for a meal tonight, which will be nice. So I'll be back bright and early in the morning to kind of carry on cutting away and getting this fitted. I might try and find some plates and some box sections so that I can quickly tack up some engine mounts as my first kind of draft edit, if you know what I mean. I'm obviously going to make some with rubber in them and things, but if I can get some that solid mount it just to get it in the right place, then happy days. So yeah, I think I'll leave it here for now, and then I'll join you in the morning to crack on with it. Good morning. So I've been on a bit of a parts recce this morning. Got loads of steel and bolts and different bits and bobs. So I need to get this engine out again, cut where I said I was going to cut yesterday, and to give myself some more room, including that front cross member. I'll try and do that in situ, so I don't have to take it all back out again. And then I'm going to pop the engine back in, hopefully get the exact position that I want it in, measure from the crank bolt in the middle to each corner of the front of the car, try and get it completely central, get it central inside the transmission tunnel, do some more measurements. So yeah, that's my plan, and I'm just going to get to it. So the first job is to take this engine back out again, and then do some cutting. All right then, you can see I've marked there. I just need to make that a little bit bigger, come down, and I want to go flat this time. It's going to come through where the left-hand drive cars would have their steering column. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's going to give me the room I need, and it's going to be easier to kind of plate it once it's flat and flat, I think. It's going to be easier for me. I'm going to cut out a little chunk there, and then at the bottom here, I'm probably going to go up to this lip here, and just down there where you can see all these marks, and down there again. I'm also going to dig through all that and get the oil filter adapter thing that I've got, because when I try and make engine mounts, I need that to be on so I know where else to mount from, because that forms part of the point where you take your mounting from, basically. I think there's 2 bolts there as well, but in general it's there that you take it from. So yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm going to do that yet, but we'll find out, I suppose. You okay? Yeah. So yeah, one of those things. We'll just get going with cutting more of the MG away. You know what? I don't mind part fitting and all that stuff, but what I really enjoy about classic cars is the fabrication. As probably is evident from my earlier videos of welding in all the sills and floor pans and wings and everything, I enjoy making things. And just the thought of welding all this off, actually, it's quite exciting. So I've cut away more of the bulkhead, and I've cut away the front cross member to what I think roughly is the right place. I did measure it, so it's equal on both sides, etc., straight lines. So if that does fit, it's good to weld up. But yeah, I think it's time now to dig out that oil filter adapter thing that I've got to see if it's going to work. And then we can pop the engine back in and just see where it sits, the lie of the land a little bit. Right then, I've found my first real big snag in the road of this project. So, the engine mount on the passenger side of this AJ30 engine is also the oil filter and oil cooler adapter. Which is weird, isn't it? But I've put it all back in, because I took it off before. I'll show you in a sec. Put it all back in, and I'm just going to do a trial fit and see where it is likely to fit and not fit. Basically, I don't think it's going to fit how it is. I've had a quick scan online, and the Mazda guys who put these engines in do have some sort of solutions for it. It's more of an issue for them for left-hand drive cars because of the steering column. But for me, it might be an issue just because I've got no space. I'll show you what I mean. See, this hunk of junk here is oil filter goes here, and the oil cooler pipes obviously run off here. And this was the original engine mount where it bolted to the chassis of the S-Type. I know that I've got no room here, and I'm coming in, so that's not going to have any room. So I'm going to have to cut out the bulkhead if I want to keep this. Also, where's the exhaust going to go? It just doesn't fit, does it? So all I can do is try and pop it in and just see whereabouts it's hitting, or try and come up with another option. So that's kind of what I'm pondering at the moment. So yeah. Kind of what I expected, I think. So the actual oil filter bit seems to fit down all right at the moment. Anyway, I've not got it completely into position, but it looks like it might just fit underneath the footwell as it slides in. Should be good. The original engine mount bit of that bracket is catching on the chassis leg of the MGB. So I'll turn the camera around and show you. You can see it down there. So it's keeping the engine up a lot higher than it needs to. So I think that whole engine mount needs to come back off again. And I need to cut that flush there. And I'll be able to make an engine mount from these bolts here, 2 on either side. Potentially try and pick up a third if I can from somewhere. This bit here, I think I might be able to get away if I can turn it all the way that way, or whatever. I think I might be able to get away with that. And you can see that oil filter bit there does fit down into here, and it might, as it's going down, go underneath this lip here and sit underneath the car. But that's annoying, so it's back out again and modify that engine mount, I think. Right then, the engine's back out again. I've lost count how many times now. What's it? 8, 7, 8? Let me know at the end of the video how many times it's gone in and out. So far anyway. So this is the engine mount thing I was on about. You can see that's where it attaches to the block. That's where the oil cooler adapter goes. And that's where the oil filter goes. So I want to cut off this bit there. Let me turn the camera around, it'd be easier. So yeah, I want to cut off this bit here with that hole in where the original engine mount would have gone to. I want to do it flush there, but leaving this. And then my engine mount can go over that and attach to this bolt there, and then weld something off it to give myself more room. You can see the marks on that where it was hitting something. So I'm going to get this in the vise and try and cut it as flush as possible. It's aluminium, so it tends to grab aluminium when it gets sticky as you cut it. But never mind, we'll cut down here as well and then shave these 2 tabs off there. And then I'll have to work out how's best to do my engine mount. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. Who would have thought it would be so much work just to cut some aluminium, eh? But it was. But it looks good and it's all ready now. I'm going to be putting an engine mount across there to there. Now you saw me use the file, or we potentially did on the time lapse, to make sure that's straight. That is completely flat there. So I'll be able to put a bar across there and weld to it. So that's good. I'm just going to have to notch it slightly for that. Bolt that goes there, which is obviously the oil passes through, it's like a banjo bolt. I will clean all the aluminium shards and stuff out of this. I've also just cleaned up at the top there. It's not perfect because the angle I had to grind at dug into it a little bit, but it doesn't look bad. And to be honest, when I get the engine out and give it its final clean up, I'll probably dress that up a little bit more. Same with that. So yeah, let's put this onto the engine and get the engine back in the car for the, I don't know, is it 100th time now? Not sure. So there you go, that's what it looks like on the engine. So you got that bolt there, which is a banjo, which allows oil to go through here. up into here, and then it can go to an oil cooler here, and back and down into an oil filter there. So let's hope that works. Hopefully I'm going to put my plate on here. I might need to buy some longer high strength bolts. Thing is, these go into aluminium, which isn't a good mix. Steel and aluminium. Anyway, I might put some studs in there or something maybe instead. We'll see. But for now, let's get this engine back in. It's so close. That bloody oil filter plate again. I think I'm going to have to cut the bulkhead all the way down to the bottom. The passenger footwell. Passenger doesn't need loads of room in the footwell, do they? Pain though. Real pain. I'm guessing I'm going to have to take the engine back out again. You can see there. Just hitting there. The thing is, if it goes below that, then it's chamfered down that way and it probably would be okay. I can't get it to that point because the gearbox is hitting the cross member underneath, so I can't get the angle on the gearbox down anymore. And then there's this as well. That is as far in as I can turn it, but it's still hitting, so I wonder whether I'm going to have to notch that down there. That's taking some serious strength away from the car then. I don't really want to have to do that. But I have got some thick gauge metal and I could brace it inside. But that's some proper open heart surgery, that. So yeah, I think the first protocol is to cut that all the way down. And then we can look into what's going on with that filter. Right then, the engine is back out again. I'm going to do some more cutting. I'm just wondering, obviously I'm trying to make the parts that I've got work, but there might be a better option of like a remote oil filter or something. I mean, if anyone can send me a link to one, that'd be great, but actually, I've just done a quick Google search and I can't find anything really. The guys that use the MX-5 seem to use the standard one. The guys that put these into MX-5 seem to use the standard one. And then there's some of the kit car stuff. Now they look like they might have one, but there's not that much information about them either. So if anyone knows, please let me know. But for the time being, I'm going to cut away some more of this MGB. I've taken that black oil cooler adapter, which I think I called a filter before. It's not a filter, it's the oil cooler adapter. It allows two pipes to come out. I've taken that off to give me a little bit more room so that when I put it in, hopefully I can get it in the right place and then make room for that afterwards. Even if it's cutting a notch out the frame and welding it in or something, I'll figure it out. Yeah, for now, I'm going to cut the rest of that corner of that bulkhead out. There you go, that's all cut back. That's obviously the original carpet inside, which I have got new for. I've gone for a complete right angle so that I should just be able to put a plate there and a plate there to weld all that back in when I come to it. So for the 200th time, is it? I'm going to put this engine back in. I'm fully expecting to have to cut something out here, like a semicircle or something. I don't know if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to brace it or whatever. I don't know yet, but we'll see. If I do cut anything out here, I am going to have to structurally sort it out inside, because I wouldn't be happy taking a notch out the chassis without doing something to make it stronger either side of it, essentially. So we'll see, but right now we need to go back in with the engine. Right then, new problem. So the gearbox is in the top of the transmission tunnel, but the front of the engine is hitting the crossmember still, but just on that one little bolt. Because of the angle of it, as soon as the front of the engine goes down, it should go in fine. But because the crossmember at the front's stopping it, I can't get the angle right to kind of scoop it in. Very frustrating. But at least I've got something to go at now. So I need to take it out and cut away that little bit of the front crossmember, just so that bolt falls down into the gap and I can allow me to push it all forwards. It's so close to fitting, so close, but no cigar just yet. Well, I've got one last idea to try before I take the engine back out again and cut some more of the front crossmember, and that's to allow room inside the car for the gear shift mechanism to lift up. I think that's what's stopping it. Because if you can imagine, if I can lift the back of the gearbox up, it'll bring the engine down and in. That's the potential plan anyway. It should give me more room to manoeuvre. So you can see I've marked it out there and I've cut out the carpet. You can see the gear lever there resting on this bit. So if I cut there, across and down, hopefully this bit here will allow to come up, because it's stuck in there at the moment. It's not moving. And I'm braking it by using this bar and trying to like lever it, and it does move it, but it's braking it. So let's cut this out and start from there. Wow, well, that worked. It's roughly in the place I want it to be. I'll show you why it's not completely in the place I want it to be just yet. So you can see that there is something, because it's got a thread in the end of it. So I think I'm just going to cut a hole here, and I'll be able to access that through the wheel arch then if I need to screw anything into it. And then down there where the alternator bolts onto is fouled in here. Now, don't know if you can tell, but there isn't enough room for the alternator just yet. I've seen some mounted backwards up here somewhere. I've seen them coming off where that pulley should be, all sorts. So I'll worry about that afterwards. But for now, I'm going. Oh, and also just there as well. I'll show you the inside position of the gear lever now. How perfect's that? And we have actually got room in the transmission tunnel, but only just. It's very close. But hopefully, when I've got rid of that and that, it'll allow it all just to drop down another centimetre and we'll have clearance everywhere. Definitely starting to run out of a little bit of steam now. Lifting in that engine, wow. Even though you've got the hoist and everything, obviously, that makes life loads easier. In fact, I don't know how you do it without one. Literally. I'm shattered, my arms and everything, it's tired. But I want to try and get this fit in with no snag, so that in the next episode I can make all these engine mounts. So yeah, I'll show you what the plan is. So I want to see if I can either massage this by heating it up and hitting it with a hammer and getting it to be a bit more in on both sides, because there's a pulley on this side as well, which I don't know if I'm using or not yet. You can see how I cut that at an angle at the bottom. I want to cut that flat down so that the oil filter has a place to go. It's not inside the passenger seat. And it'll make it easier for me to weld a plate on as well. And here, now this is the one that's upsetting me a little bit. Basically this bit of the engine is hitting there. I think it might be something to do with the, in fact it is, it's where the alternator clamps onto. Now if I'm not putting the alternator in that place anyway, I might be able to just chop that off. Quite intrusive that though, isn't it? It doesn't feel right cutting into the engine block. So yeah, I'm going to start off by doing the stuff to the bulkhead, and then I'm going to do some research about what to do about that, and we'll see where we get to. Right, so I massaged that with a hammer. I'm going to make it better, but for now it's fine. Did the same to that side. I ended up cutting that. I can weld mild steel, but I can't weld aluminium. So if I take what we talked about before off, and it's the wrong thing before I've done any research, I can't put it back on again. Well, I could, but I need to pay someone to do it. Whereas I can weld that back on. So I thought I'd do that now so that we can fit it properly. Hopefully that's massaged enough on both sides. I think it should be. It only had a few mil to go down, and I've cut that square down there so that should drop in. That's a lot of the bulkhead removed now, and strength up top. Hopefully that's not altered the strength in any way. That should still be providing the same amount of strength there because I've not got rid of any metal. So I think that was the best way of doing that. The obvious other thing to do is to start altering that upper kind of transmission tunnel there. But if I can avoid doing that, I will, because I don't want to, is the simple answer to that. That's quite a lot of modification. That can all be welded back together. That is covered in grease and dirt and all sorts, and going to be in a very tricky place to weld anything on it. You'd be able to do it from the inside, but if I can avoid it, I will. So let's, hopefully for the last time today, see if we can fit this engine and gearbox back in and get it roughly in the right place. Still doesn't quite fit. Oh my God, I'm filthy. So the bulkhead still needs massaging a little bit, just from where the RX-8 starter motor would be. That's just hitting in, but that's no problem because I've already cut it, so it just needs folding a little bit. I forgot to cut out the left of the cross member, so obviously that's still catching. But the engine is sitting as best as I've had it so far. Nice and central, even though you can't really see it because the engine hoist's in the way. Those bits that I massaged out have worked perfectly. This bit here is a bit concerning. It's not actually touching, but it's very, very close. So I think I'll be removing the whole of the old engine mount, and that should sort that out. The gearbox is nice in the middle there. Prop shaft length is actually about identical to an MGB, which is cool. Not that that's going to help me in any way, but so yeah. Now I've got Scott, who's got an Instagram, 1972 MGB. It's the one that got flooded in the floods in January in Stockport, and he has bought this engine. So he's coming round in, I don't know, 45 minutes or so to come and pick that up. So hopefully we can try and get that in the boot for him. I'm going to stop working on this now. I need to tidy up before he comes. It's like 5:15 now, and I've had enough. So we'll sort Scott out with that engine, and then we will, yeah, call it a day after that.
Right, mate, how's it going?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Alright, tell you what, it's about the way here. Give me one of them because I don't get my hands all dirty.
Can't see, mate.
Oh, bloody hell, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Tell you what, it's a lot cleaner than mine, that's for sure. Whee, let's do it. How you getting on anyway? Let's have a gander. I've got a nosy. Oh. Go into the sump and then just 3, 2, 1.
Right, are you okay with it just falling, because it will just fall at the moment?
Okay. Alright. Drop some views, John.
Slammed your polo now.
Hey, this is slam. This is what they call stand.
Door open.
Already absolutely like awful.
This gearbox in the car. Can you go through that way? So there we go. The original B series has gone on its way, hopefully, to make Scott's car run again after it was flooded. So that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Good morning. I'm back in the garage. Now, I nearly ended the episode. Well, I did end the episode. At the end of the last day in the garage, but I found a few hours spare, which is a miracle. So I'm going to whip the engine back out, do some more cutting, obviously, and we're going to just see if we can get it straight in the engine bay. And if I can get it straight to the engine bay, I'll be happy, and I can leave the episode there as it's ready to make engine mounts. But at the moment, I'm about 1 centimetre towards the driver's side on the front of the engine. So if you imagine the engine should sit perfectly straight in the car, the gearbox end towards you, it's a bit like that. So the gearbox is in the right place, the front of the engine's a bit twisted. So I need to get that all over. Now, I've been working on the engine bay and getting clearance in there, and I'm nearly there now. But what I think is actually happening is the starter motor point on the RX-8 gearbox is hitting the inside of the transmission tunnel, I think. So I think I need to make some clearance on the gearbox itself, and maybe a little bit in the transmission tunnel. I'm hoping there's witness marks down there to see where it's been hitting, because I can't actually get my hand in or see or whatever where it's hitting. So I need to make some room in there, and hopefully the whole engine will be able to slide across 1 centimetre or so. So yeah, let me whip this engine out. I'm not going to film it again. You've seen it a dozen times today, or on this video. I'm going to whip it out, get it on the ground, and I can have a good look where it is actually still making contact with the B. Don't forget, I need enough for clearance, but then I also need enough for the engine to shake as it revs and over bumps and stuff. So I need enough clearance all around for the movement of the engine whilst it's driving as well. Otherwise, I'll have horrible noises when I drive the car, and bangs and crashes and things, which won't be good. So let me do that, and I'll get back with you. Let the engine's out again. So there was a little vent on the side here that stuck out about that much. Look like that. You can see the witness marks on that against the car transmission tunnel. Now, I think that just deflects some of the kind of clutch material when it obviously breaks down as you're on the clutch and things out and back, but it's not the end of the world if they come out and hit the side of the car, is it? Now, there was no witness marks on this starter motor point for the RX-8 gearbox. I'm obviously going to have my starter motor on this side. I need to cut a slot out of this gearbox here for that. I think that's good, but what I need to do still is make a bit more room in other places. So up here, I need to make some room. I'm going to try and see if I can just massage that back in with a hammer rather than cut it. Try and keep the strength there. And I think I'm going to notch this here straight and across and down, because it shouldn't get rid of too much strength, and I'll brace it inside with some chunky steel to kind of keep the strength there. That should allow no interference with the filter on this side. What the hell I'm going to do for exhaust manifolds, I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out when we come to it. So yeah, cut a little bit here, and in there, and there, and there, and there. It's going to be fun stitching all this back together, isn't it? So yeah, I'll get on with cutting all that, and then we'll try and fit it again. So that was a good hour or so of grinding, cutting, trying to use the air hammer, that didn't really work, to get rid of the original engine mounts and cut clearance for everything else. Now I think I've done that, so now we need to put the engine back in and see if that's worked. I'm hoping to have moved it 1 centimetre further towards the passenger side at the front of the engine. So let's try it now. So the engine is better again, not perfect. That oil filter place is the biggest pain, to be honest. It's going right into the front footwell on the passenger side. There's got to be a better solution for that. There's got to be a different type of filter or something you can adapt to. So if anyone knows of that, let me know in the comments. For now, just to get it to fit, I think I'm going to take another sliver off inside here, which I'll show you. You can see there, that's what's stopping it. All it needs to do is come forwards and it should clear it and end up in the footwell that little bit there, and I've got that kind of inch to play with. But it's just hung up on that corner at the moment, so I'm hoping I can get my grinder in and just like shave a 5 centimetre just off that edge there. Just allow it to swing in, because it's definitely stuck at the moment. Now I'm not going to be able to film that, but I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So finally, that's cleared down there, and it is central in the engine bay. Measure from the end of the crank to there, 12.5. Down to there, 12.5. Absolutely central. Gear levers in there, which is in the perfect slot. The oil filter is going to be inside the passenger footwell, kind of. I'm going to obviously put it underneath the car. It should actually, once it's jacked up, be an all right place to get your hand underneath and unscrew the oil filter from there. Obviously that's clearance there. The engine is still loose, so there's room for it to move. Happy days. So in the next episode we can start making these engine mounts. Now the engine mounts are going to be hard to make, and to be honest, I don't know where to start on it, because the bolts that hold the original engine mount on are lower than the chassis rail in the MG. So I'm going to have to make a bracket to come up, across, and then kind of attach to an engine mount. See if I can use the front cross member mounting points potentially to help out with that. I need it to be able to bolt in and bolt off, so that when I install the engine I can actually get it onto the engine mount. It's a real kind of, it seems to be different every time I put it in to get it in the right place. So yeah, one of those things, but it's in, and it's in a good position, and I need to measure it for what angle it's at, and I think the whole engine's twisted one way slightly, but again, we can figure all that out in the next episode. So for the second time for me, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on it. It really helps me out. And I'll see you next week to hopefully start making engine mounts for this and a gearbox mount, and then we can take the engine out and we can start fabricating all the holes we've cut and stuff. So yeah, I'll see you then.